This is Believe in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Believe Podcast Network.
Doesn't it? Or did. Joe Cox with an up and out. Wide open. Touchdown. Israel Troop.
Snap to Young, drops back, pressure from the edges. He throws near sideline, and it's intercepted. Keely Ringo at the 21. Off he goes. 40, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30 near sideline. Breaks the tackle. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Georgia.
Good evening, neighborhood. How about them Dawgs?
32-18. Let the celebration begin.
All right. What's up? Happy Friday. It's the Believe in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, or on just the Believe Network, that is, coming at you on the video side. Brinks.tv, and filling in for Israel, that's Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and we joined forces to execute the SEC After Dark podcast. Steve, what's up, man? How you doing?
Not a lot. Having a good time. Happy to be here, man.
Good deal, man. Well, you're kicking ass on your Locked On Ole Miss show. I watch it often, so man, you're doing a great job on that, and man, just keep that content flowing.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. It's a lot of fun. I basically started doing that to get my mind off of some medical issues I was having, and it's kind of worked out. And now I'm at a position to where it's just kind of growing on its own. It's pretty cool, actually. It's really cool, actually.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and then the story of how that all happened. I mean, you started your own deal, and then you got picked up by Locked On, and we kept it going with SEC After Dark. So not to worry, your baby is still alive on that regard. So we are brought to you by Betonline.ag. It continues to be your number one source for all your sports betting needs. You can bet on NHL next season. You can bet on MLB, do some golf stuff, some UFC, NFL futures, college football futures. We're going to get into that right here. But in order to join, you can pull up the website or use your mobile device, put that promo code BELIEVE to get your 50% welcome bonus. That's BLEAV to get in on the action. Bet online. It's where the game starts. Steve, I want to jump in right here. I was looking through. BetOnline they don't have national championship odds yet, but they do have odds to win each conference. So I thought this was interesting. Obviously, Alabama is number one at -115. Georgia's number two at +160. Who do you think, without looking, you've probably already looked, but who do you think is number three?
Well, I have already looked. So actually, no, it is Texas A&M, which is weird. I didn't know you could win the SEC at 8-4, but here they are.
Yeah, here they are. Alabama and Georgia must be having really down years if you're winning it at 8 games. Then I thought it was interesting. Kentucky, Ole Miss coming in. I think Ole Miss is a lot better than Kentucky this year. Sorry, Vinny, but I just, the pieces and we talked about this earlier today. I mean, Zach Evans alone, I think, ups your odds, maybe even challenging Alabama for the top spot in the West. I mean, at plus 3,300, you might be in some good money to bet Ole Miss just in case, because they've got something special going on down there. And then you have Florida, Tennessee at plus 4,000, plus 4,500 respectively. Arkansas, LSU. I think LSU's a little low. I think Auburn's a little high. Then, of course, Mississippi State, South Carolina, probably right where they should be. Vanderbilt, Missouri, probably right where they should be as well. So, but looking at Georgia, they are the second highest odds to win the SEC. It seems to be a crash course for Alabama, Georgia to meet in Atlanta yet again. Why do we like Georgia's chances, Steve?
Well, mainly they have a quarterback coming back. Even though they have all the turnover that's happened on the defense and even some skill players that's changed over, you do have the stability that a quarterback coming back will bring. Now, that being said, I probably wouldn't touch a plus 160 line for Georgia because there's not probably much upside there.
No.
The upside of these bets are probably at the Kentucky to Tennessee or Kentucky to Arkansas level on this. Like you can get out Arkansas for plus 5,000. I mean, get Ole Miss for plus 3,300. I mean, it's pretty solid bets. You go down and lay $100 and end up with a decent amount of money if they pay off.
Yeah, and they have a really good chance of doing so. But yeah, I mean, I like how a lot of people are counting Georgia out already. You know, a lot of people are saying A&M is going to win the conference. A&M is, you know, Joel Klatt was on. It's baffling because like they recruited all these people, but like they've been recruiting well. Freshmen. Yeah, and they've been recruiting well for the last 3 seasons. They still went 8-4. Like it just something's not connecting here, and I think people just look at recruiting rankings and they don't really do a deep dive. I mean, Isaiah Spiller, their best player, gone, right? Their best defensive lineman, gone. You know, they have a lot of people that are out, and who they're going to replace them with. I don't think that A&M is in that spot where they can truly say we are reloading. And it's really hard to say we're reloading if you're 8-4 anyway, and opting out of your bowl game.
Yeah. Can you really use the 12th man anymore after you just let Wake punk you in a Gator Bowl because you didn't have a quarterback?
No, you can't. Yeah. We're the 12th man just said, hey, I'm going to chill at the house.
Yeah. And A&M's big problem is they've got 21 players on their team that anybody would want to have. You can look at their lineup and they're just all there. And then they're just a dumpster fire at quarterback. It's going to take Haynes King being the next Johnny Manziel to get them to where they think they deserve to be.
Well, unless Max Johnson. I mean, Max Johnson comes in. He's pretty good, but I mean, he was just pretty good. He was just pretty good at LSU, so we don't really know what he's all about.
Yeah, with better receivers.
Yeah.
And he does have a little bit of moxie to him. He does have a little bit of that it factor, but he went 6-6 at LSU.
Yeah.
So until A&M has a quarterback that I can count on that's like, hey, this is a dude, pay attention to him, I'm not going to fall for A&M at all at any point moving forward.
They're in show me phase right now. I'll believe it when I see it. I think it's going to be an LSU, Alabama, Ole Miss division, like it is every year.
Yeah, LSU is still a Jaden Daniels situation.
Yeah, I mean, what is he going to do? Yeah, Jaden. Yeah. I think it's Jaden.
Yeah,
like what like he comes from Arizona State. You can't really judge what he did at Arizona State because Herm Edwards is. Well, Herman Edwards.
His offensive comp was when Kerry Collins played in the league.
Yeah, it's brutal down. I'm surprised he's still. Well, he knows the AD, so
I am curious to what the offense is going to look like at LSU.
Yeah,
because I mean they're a decent team; they can do all of this stuff. But is Brian Kelly going to go back to his spread roots? Because a lot of people don't even realize at this point, Brian Kelly, when he coached at Grand Valley State, was a row your boat type spread offense like Western Michigan and Minnesota.
Yeah,
he did a lot of that same stuff. And when he got to Notre Dame, he just kind of evolved to try and is like, this will be our way to win in the playoff, or this will be our way to win in the New Year's Six. And they just didn't have, honestly, the talent. They got placed in bowl games they probably didn't belong in. And in the last 20 years or something like that, Notre Dame is 0-8 in New Year's Six or BCS bowl games.
It is baffling. And what's scary is Notre Dame is they're going to be a lot better. And Marcus Freeman, like Brian Kelly did them a favor by leaving. Marcus Freeman is going to be a stud. He had Cincinnati's defense playing like an SEC defense 2 years ago.
Yeah, but Notre Dame, no matter what, is going to be like we talk about show me for Texas A&M. Notre Dame, until they get past it, they are show me.
Yeah, they are still show me, but I think their upside is a lot greater than A&M's in that show me phase.
I can see that because they're coming from a better starting position. I mean, they were a New Year's Six team last year,
and they return a lot of that same talent. They didn't lose much. at all, if anything, really. But yeah, I mean, what's LSU's offense going to look like? They're going to be one big happy family. That's what it's going to be. But I just like people like when people look at this Georgia roster, because obviously we are a Georgia show, so we're going to kind of focus on that a little bit. When they look at this Georgia roster, people don't realize that the only real weapon that we lost was James Cook.
Yes, but that's a hard weapon to replace.
That is a really hard weapon to replace. But I think you get Arik Gilbert finally in the fold. He's finally healthy, knock on wood. You're going to see a lot of 12, 13 personnel. I think the backs are going to hurt you in other ways. Like there's not going to be another back that can do what James Cook did. They're going to have to try to create it in the screen game and some of the other ways with McIntosh and Milton and Dajuan Edwards. But you have A.D. Mitchell, who had a huge finish to the season. He had some drops early on, but he really kind of stepped it up. Became that go-to receiver. Ladd McConkey in the slot. He's kind of your go-get-it guy, and that dude can go too. Then you have Brock Bowers. You have Kyrus Jackson's coming back. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson. I mean, you have a lot of talent that's returning. You're not losing much. You lose 2 offensive linemen, Jamari Sawyer, guard, Justin Schaefer, guard. So you lose 2 interior offensive linemen. Luckily, recruited very, very well there. Have some guys, have some studs that can step in. Some more talented people, not necessarily rich in experience, but if you look at them on paper, they're more talented. You get a coaching change at the position. We don't really know what we're going to get on the offensive line. I think that's where kind of the pause is on the offensive side of the ball. Like, can they execute? And
14 personnel is what you're going to get.
Yeah. Or 5 personnel. We're going to get 5 personnel. You got Brock Bowers at tailback and then go empty.
Oh my God.
5 tight ends. We can legitimately do that. That's going to be hilarious. No, but yeah, get that tight bunch and 14 personnel, man. That would be dangerous. Dangerous. You got Darnell Washington. Let's not forget the NBA looking player. So, but my concern, the holes that I see are on the defense side of the ball. Obviously, you lose 5 first-round people off of any defense, doesn't matter. That's hard to replace.
Oh yeah,
like Georgia will never give up 6.5 points per game as a season average ever again. Like that, I don't want to say ever, but it's going to be a really long time before that happens again.
Especially in the age of NIL, because this is the thing that I don't think people realize. Georgia and Alabama are traditional recruiters, shall we say.
Yeah.
They recruit really well the way that recruiting was done 5 years ago. And they're going to continue to do really well in recruiting like we did 5 years ago. But the problem with NIL is some of the players that Georgia and Alabama was getting is now going to go to A&M, going to go to Miami, and all these NIL monsters, and they're just going to build their roster. So Georgia and Alabama is going to have less, which in turns, those 4-star players that maybe Georgia passed on, the Elijah Moores that ended up going to Ole Miss, got passed on by Georgia. He might end up at Georgia in the future because it's going to spread out. So,
yeah,
I mean, it could all work out. That's what I'm saying, but it was going to look different.
It's going to look vastly different. I think you're going to see Georgia and Alabama be more players in the transfer portal in the future because you're going to lose a lot more guys. That's just a fact. Like if you're not starting, hell, even if you are starting, like they're going to lose some guys, and there's going to be some guys you're like, whoa, like I thought he was all in. You're going to lose those, but what's going to happen is there's going to be some dude down at Georgia State who finally gets academically eligible, like 6'4", 200 pounds, and runs a 4.3, but he's at Georgia State because he couldn't qualify academically. Like that guy's going to get recruited out of the portal. You're going to have, you're going to have Southern Miss just collecting cast-offs. You're going to have freaking MAC schools are going to be feeder programs for Ohio State and Wisconsin and Penn State and the Pac-12 superpowers.
Troy Brown from Western Michigan, 3-time All-Conference player, transferred to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ole Miss has
going to happen.
Both of the 2020 Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year, the co-freshman of the year, both are playing at Ole Miss now. It was Isheem Young and Corey Coleman.
It's truly going to be a minor league system. The G5 is going to be a minor league system for P5. Like they ought to just. I heard somebody and Dane and I have talked about this. P2, yeah. Dane and I have talked about this before too, as well. Is having conferences link up with a G5 conference and do promotion and relegation within that conference. Like, for example, let's say SEC goes into links up with the Sun Belt, right? Vanderbilt goes down to the Sun Belt, and Appalachian State comes up into the SEC, and like you have like 2 or 3 teams trading spots. How awesome would that be?
Well, that would be awesome, but that would also never happen.
No, it's just fun to think about, though.
The best thing for you to think of in this situation would be like a 24-team SEC with 2 12-team divisions where everybody's making the same amount of money. Yeah. And the top 3 teams move up, the bottom 3 teams move down, the top teams play for the title, and the bottom teams, I guess, they're fine. They just, they're just the bottom teams down there.
Yeah, they just kind of sit there. Yeah, I like that too. I mean, I just like, I would like to have like 3, just have like major college football just be like one entity where you have like 40 teams or however many, like you want to divide 12 by 3 and have 36 teams, have 40 teams or whatever, 42 teams.
The funny thing is when, we've talked about college football realignment for 2 decades. People don't even realize. Yeah. It's like the Power 5 is going to break away from the NCAA eventually. Well, this is what it looks like. Everybody's freaking out now. Yeah, this is what it looks like.
This process started a long time ago when Miami and Virginia Tech left. The big dominoes started when Miami and Virginia Tech left the Big East for the ACC. Mm-hmm. That was like 2006, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere in there. It was Miami and Virginia Tech. When did Louisville move? I think they were a little bit after that.
A couple years later, they had another. It was like 11, 12 when you had a mass realignment, like when A&M Missouri joined the SEC. You had like Utah jump into the Pac-12. You had Colorado jump from the Big 12 to the Pac-12. You had I think Syracuse, BC, Pitt, and Louisville joined the ACC. You had a lot of movement. Maryland jumped to the Big Ten later, a couple of years later. Rutgers jumped into the Big Ten. I don't know how the hell that happened, but they did.
Yeah, the Big Ten is concerned about markets. That's absolutely hilarious. They're doing the same thing in LA with USC and UCLA. They are all concerned about markets, and they just want to be in like the 7 of the top 10, and they think that is going to be enough to hold them.
No.
Other than having one team in, like Virginia, if like on SEC After Dark, you can ask Corey. I said this: Virginia and North Carolina would be a preferable expansion spot for the SEC because carriage fees are still a thing. They're not completely gone, but there's also a cultural fit that becomes the main thing, and that's where the Florida State, that's where the Clemson comes in.
It's truly still a Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, it wouldn't change. The Big Ten, they're just a nationwide conference. They're like the AFC North or something. And and the Southeastern Conference would still be the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, it's you're getting all these you're collecting all these P5 teams, but you still maintain a lot of the regional rivalries. I mean, you get Clemson, that's a huge get because now Clemson, South Carolina means a lot more than just a rivalry. Now it's a conference rivalry at that.
Clemson, Georgia.
would
get to be a thing
renew.
again. Yeah,
they would renew. And I don't know how the pods and the scheduling would work, or the more teams you add, obviously, the more difficult it is to play everybody every other year, like kind of what we discussed with a 9-1, or it was it a 9 and no, what was it? a 3 and a 6 with a 3 permanent,
3 permanent and 6 rotating
with 9 conference
and then
games.
7 and 1.
Yeah, which I think both of those models are fine. I like the 3 and 6 better, but I like both of those models. It gets a little more
because
difficult.
you get to keep Mississippi State if you're an Ole Miss fan, but you lose LSU, and I am not okay for that at all at any point. Yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, I like the 3-6 better. 3-6 is obviously better for a lot of reasons. It's a great hip hop duo, 3-6 Mafia. It's a good scheduling model for the SEC, and it is a good jersey number for a fullback too.
But that 3-6 model, that's for 16 teams. There's a chance the SEC never plays a game with 16 teams.
Yeah, there's a chance that we could just jump straight to 22.
Yeah.
Like
and
that.
20 teams, 24 teams, that's kind of the sweet spot because 20 teams will be 5 pods. And I know everybody's sick to death of hearing about pods, but once you hit 20 teams, it would actually make sense a little bit. But you could have a 9-game schedule with a 20-team SEC. You play everybody in your pod. That's 4 games. Then you have 2 permanent opponents. And if you're Georgia, that could be Florida, that could be Auburn. If you're not in the same pod, if one of them is not, you pick up somebody else, And then after that, permanent opponents, you play 1 team from the other 3 pods, and it's based off of where you finish. If you finish 5th, you play the 5th place teams from the other pods. If you finish 1st, you play the winners of the pod.
So we want like leaders and legends here?
No. We're looking for a balanced schedule. That's a way that parity can be generated because there's no draft or anything like that.
Yeah.
But this is a way you could make everything because it would force Georgia to play a harder schedule than Vanderbilt.
Yeah. I like that too. I mean, anything you could do to drive up competitiveness, and I think it brings the markets up, and I think it brings the value of the games up when you have that many more good games. Like let's say, you play LSU, Alabama, and Texas and Clemson all in the same schedule because like Alabama and Auburn would theoretically be in your pod, so you play them every year anyway. Then you get the best of like, let's say Ole Miss has a really good year one year, and you get Ole Miss, you get Oklahoma, you get Clemson. That's a freaking crazy schedule. And then you turn around and play Georgia Tech, FCS school, and I don't know.
Some G5, Georgia State.
You go get like Georgia State or somebody in state, like Georgia State, Georgia Southern on a rotating basis. That's pretty sporty schedule there.
I think they should do like a partnership with the Sun Belt. And every team in the SEC's G5 game is a Sun Belt game against different teams.
You really should.
It's almost like charity work. Yeah, it's like charity work for the Sun Belt for those younger schools. And they just come, take their whooping, go on. They probably, beat Vanderbilt, but still.
Yeah.
And they can even set it up. We'll make it up to where the bottom of the SEC plays the top of the Sun Belt. So like Coastal Carolina gets Vandy.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of all over the place on our little PTI board over here, but can Georgia repeat? Absolutely, they can. So that answers that question. But I like the idea. There's a lot of ideas you have. One thing I really like about Clemson is when they do their FCS opponent, they really I think every 4 years they might go out of state, but they rotate between South Carolina State and Furman and Citadel. They stay in Wofford. They stay in the state of South Carolina, which is really, really good for them to do. I really like that they do that.
That's smart. If you're playing an FCS team, if they have to go 300 or 3 states over and stay at a hotel, the money for that trip is defeating the money they're going to get for their budget. So keep it in state.
Yeah. There's plenty in the Southeast. There's plenty of FCS schools. SoCon and what's the other one? SoCon and what's the other one?
Southland.
Southland. Yeah. You have plenty.
They also have like the American Sun, I believe.
Atlantic Sun, maybe, I think.
Atlantic Sun, because it's got like Austin P and those guys in it. Jacksonville.
No, that's
State.
OVC. That's OVC.
OVC. Okay.
Yeah. All the Tennessee FCSs are in the OVC.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're an Ole Miss or a Mississippi State, play Dion. He's right down the road.
Yeah, play Coach Prime. Yeah. Speaking of Mississippi, we'll get back. That's our realignment talk. But speaking of Mississippi, you got Coach Prime over there, but he visited a school that's on Georgia's schedule. Where they are on Georgia's schedule, I think it's November 19th is the date. I don't like it there. I don't like it at that date because you have Mike Leach in his third season late in the year. Luckily, it's a home game. But, like, what is it about Mike Leach's team? They were young the last 2 years. They finally got all this experience coming back. I think he's kind of got the program where he wants. Will Rogers is really good. His defensive line is playing like he's had some pretty good defensive lines in his time. What they did to Auburn at the tail end of last season, that's what makes me nervous about this game. What is it about Mississippi State that's so scary?
The experience and the senior leadership that is kind of coming back, because year 3 typically is a Mike Leach thing. We make that comment all the time, but it happened at Washington State. It happened at Texas Tech. It's a real thing. But the reason I think that is because there's juniors and seniors all over the roster. If you look at the 2 deep, it's almost all juniors and seniors.
Yeah, he tears it down.
Yeah,
he tears it down in his first year, and then kind of has a core group and just kind of builds them up.
Now, the one thing I want to see from Mike Leach this year, and the thing that I think that'll make him more competitive in the Southeastern Conference, is a more varied run game. Instead of having 3 run plays, maybe bump it up to 6, and do things like that. If they're 80% pass, it's not going to work in the SEC. They're just going to drop HU all day long. They're going to get to your quarterback eventually, because they did lose on Charles Cross to the NFL draft, and that's a replace. That's a hard replace for them. But they have good backs: Jaquavius Marks, Dylan Johnson, to go with Will Rogers.
Use them.
Yeah, use them.
They have good backs. Use them.
And their weak point is probably the wide receiver position. Now you have Jaden Wally. You have what's his name? Austin Williams. I wanted to call him Ashton. Austin Williams. But I want to see who transfers in, who's going to be the transfer that comes in and makes an impact.
Yeah.
They have some talent on that roster, but there's nobody there that is really going to make you afraid. And that kind of hurts them with their year 3 thing, the thing we always talk about. Because if you look at the schedule based off of what they had, you can easily see 4-8. I mean, it's not even hard to get to 4-8.
No, it's not.
With like a 4 or 5 game losing streak in the middle, beginning with LSU and like ending with Georgia, and the season could go sideways on them in a hurry.
But very well could.
I think their defense will be okay, probably middle of the pack in the SEC, but it is junior and seniors, you know. And I think their offense is going to be fine.
And the thing about the wide receiver position, with any other program, this would be a huge, huge red flag, huge issue. But with Mike Leach, I just don't think it is, because he can take these no-name guys. Like what he did with Wes Welker, who, was a freaking half-star recruit out of Tulsa, like had no offers, was just getting ready to go to community college and get on with his life. And Mike Leach called him. It was the only offer he ever had. And he just balled out. I mean, he takes guys like that who you never know, and because of the system, call it what you want. I'll be a system guy. That's fine with me. They fit.
The important thing, and the part that Will Muschamp at defensive coordinator is going to have to get right against Mike Leach, is you never, ever, 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 ever play man coverage against this passing offense. If you play man coverage, they will eat you alive, and they will throw for 670 yards like they did against LSU. And just never. You drop 8, it's boring. And I understand it's boring, but you have to do it every play, because if you don't, they're going to take advantage of you. Go right down the field. And Georgia has so much talent that the trap is there for Georgia to fall into.
Yeah, blitz and play man behind it, and you'll get picked apart. And that's what Leach wants you to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's all a part of his setup. And defensively, it's very Joey Dunnish. They're going to blitz the heck out of you. Hopefully, Stetson is mobile and gets there. His feet will probably serve him pretty well in that game.
That's what served him well all last season. I think that the defensive front. It obviously is going to be good. They're led by Nathan Pickering. He's a veteran guy. How they're going to replace Aaron Brule, who left for Michigan State, I don't know what they're going to do there. But you have Jet Johnson.
I think they have holes all at the linebacker position. That's their defensive hole.
Yeah, that's going to be a big problem because, especially in this league, especially against a team like Georgia might just cram the freaking ball down their throat and be done with it. I mean, and they very well could. I mean, these linebackers are probably well, if not for Vanderbilt, they would have been the weakest unit in the conference. But I just think that they're just going to have to be big play reliant defensively is what I see.
Yeah, I think Ladd McConkey becomes the dude to watch in that game. I think AD is going to get taken away by Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes is a tremendous cornerback.
He's a dude. He is a dude.
But the middle of the field can be attacked.
Oh, it's going to be the Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey show.
Yeah, it just straight in the middle of the field.
Yeah. And Arik Gilbert is going to feast. I mean,
as somebody has watched back-to-back Egg Bowls and knows kind of what they want to do, that's it. Now, last year, Mississippi State just didn't have a chance. That game was over.
Yeah, Ole Miss was
the second quarter.
Ole Miss is like, Sugar Bowl. Yeah, here we go. But yeah, I mean, because Ole Miss is an RPO team, and Mississippi State is weak at linebacker. Like, if you're weak at linebacker, you play an RPO heavy team like Georgia is, like Ole Miss is. You're gonna get smoked. But you play a team that's still trying to figure out what they're trying to do, or you play a team that comes in there all cocky and want to play man like LSU did. It's gonna be ball game.
They should have fired Ed Orgeron right after that game.
They really should have. I mean, that was like Mike Leach cut half his roster and put up 600 yards. Like year one, Mike Leach, he comes in and just he takes all the upperclassmen and says, "All right, if you don't like me, kick rocks. I don't care."
But
it's.
Yeah, he just alpha mailed us like we're going to stop and we're going to do what we do. We're LSU. We've got a top 5 pick playing cornerback. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, the top 5 playing cornerback, he might guard his man, but they're going to run mesh till the freaking cows come home, and those linebackers stand zero chance.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't know if you know this, Steve. But Mississippi State, they offer scholarships too.
Yeah,
like they have scholarship players too. They have some pretty good ones. They just sent one to the NFL. They sent 2 to the NFL. Yeah, they sent a wide receiver to the Baltimore Ravens, and they sent one over to Ole Miss. Malik Heath. He said enough of this. I'm going to the other side. But Jaden Walley, he's going to get drafted. Austin Williams, he's going to, he'll be a nice weapon there for Mike Leach. And then, but he's got to figure out a way to get these Jaquavius Marks and Dylan Johnson involved more, which he'll probably go a lot of 20, 21 personnel, which is what he did a lot early on, I think. And he did some of that at Washington State because he had 2 pretty good running backs with Alex Borghi and whoever the other guy was. He thought he was good enough to do 20 personnel, but the air raid, that's like a base formation, the air raid.
Yeah.
Is that 20 personnel formation. And they do a lot of swing outs with the backs. They use the backs in the pass game a lot with that.
Yeah. Wheel routes all day long.
Yep. Wheel routes. You have arrow routes where they're the number one option, and they call it Y corner. But it's really just like a 3-man snag concept where you have the outside guy running a bullet slant in. You have the middle guy running the corner, and then the third guy, which a lot of times in Mike Leach's offense is the running back, you have him darting out to the flat. So they do a lot of that. They do a lot of mesh. 4 verticals. Air Raid loves the 4 verticals. They call it the six route.
Yes. And part of that route is it's not verticals the way that people think about it. It could be verticals. The wide receiver's trained to look back about every 5 yards because the ball could be coming at any point. It's really much a killer. It really is.
It's a one-step rhythm, and that ball should not be completed. If that ball's completed more than 15 to 18 yards down the field, you're doing it wrong. It's not a chuck it. It's not a chuck and duck. It's not a big 5-step from the shotgun and load up and just heave it down the field like people think vertical routes are. That's the biggest misconception with vertical routes. And that's something you have to teach the kids too. Like, you have a young quarterback, they want to just sit back and just show off their arm, which if they can get a good rhythm, good one-step rhythm and really kind of take advantage of pre-snap. If you got a good pre-snap guy like Will Rogers, they can do that. And Jaden Walley can, you get a team that decides they want to play man and they get cocky.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that happens. So
it's a huge trap to teams like LSU, teams like Georgia, teams like Alabama, because you should be able to do this. You have better players than them. But the fact is, the scheme is designed for your confidence. It's going to take advantage of everything that you think you do well. Yeah. And force you to do something you don't do very well. And that's the reason. I think it was Washington that figured out with Mike Leach that if you just go back to the drop 8 and just keep everything in front of you, it's kind of like
that's like Barry Odom,
the water boy and everything. How do you like my offense? It's real similar to that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Barry Odom is a disciple of that drop 8 thing in Arkansas.
I mean, it's just,
that John Haycock system.
Yeah, it's good. You just if you can clog up their zones, they really kind of what the drop 8 does is allow you to get home with 3 rushers, 4 rushers.
Yeah, we started doing that last year. That became our primary defense, and we had a guy with 13 sacks, and another one was 7, and another one was like 8 or 10, somewhere in there. Yeah. It was a ton of sacks. And that was just rushing 3 players. And then I guess secondary rushing the middle linebacker whenever the quarterback left the pocket, because you're taught not to throw against the grain back to the middle of the field. Right. So the middle zone right there, linebacker just vacates and just immediately rushes because you're not going to throw it back.
No, you're not. And those guys feast and they win they win their one-on-one battles. So that's the Mississippi State Bulldogs. If Georgia was playing them the 3rd, 4th game, I would say it'd probably be a blowout.
Although it would be nervous with that defense. Yeah, they do need a little bit of time to gel. Maybe a game 6, game 7, you'd feel really good. I wouldn't want them early in the season. I don't want them late in the season.
No, because they might be. If they win a few of those games, that could get hairy. It could turn out to be really good for them. They're a feast or famine. It's either going to be chicken salad or chicken, the rest. So, but
if they're 3-6 when they play you, don't worry, and you're fine.
They'll fold like a cheap.
They'll fold like a cheap tent. Yeah,
and Leach will be a dead man walking because they're not going to put up with that. It's not Washington State. They're not happy going 6-6. Like Washington State was ready to build them a statue at 6-6.
The State could go 8-3, lose to Ole Miss again. That'd be 3 in a row. Mike Leach is in trouble, even with this schedule going 8-4. He's got some issues that could potentially be coming down the road.
Oh yeah, lots of them, because Mississippi State is not a recruiting hotbed, but he's got the stones to do it. But that's Mississippi State. Well, stop me if you've heard this one before. Georgia landed another number 1 overall tight end, another 5-star.
Yeah, it feels like y'all are doing this.
He will be a
semi-regular. Yeah,
I know. He's the number 1 rated tight end in the class of 2024. Landon Thomas from Colquitt County, the former home of Rush Probst. He decommitted from FSU. He was committed to FSU for the longest time. Decommitted in October. And Todd Hartley, man, give that guy a raise, man. He's just picking him off, man. Like, you have a tight end room that's filled like this, and you're still pulling these guys in because Todd Monken shows that, hey, I'm not scared to use these guys, but he's 6'5", 220, big time playmaker. They also got his teammate, Nye Carr, who also committed from Colquitt County as a receiver, kind of a smaller, I say smaller, he's 6 foot. The first 2 commits of the 24 class for Georgia. So, but it's just like, have you ever seen a school recruit a position as elite as Georgia has with tight ends?
Probably Bama and DBs back in the mid 2010, 2011 at that point, where they were just assembling lining back there like, oh, this guy's the next Ed Reed,
Yeah, they go from Minkah Fitzpatrick to Marlon Humphrey to, they had a who's who of DBs.
Probably that, because DBs are Nick Saban's thing. That's what he wants to do. But probably that. LSU, potentially with DBs, there was about a 10-year period where they were putting out first-round picks pretty consistently, to where the DBU argument started to come up.
Yeah.
But, not at the tight end position. If you notice, when I'm sitting here doing my examples, it's all in the defensive backfield.
There hasn't, on the offensive side of the ball, there hasn't been a school that's really recruited another position, or at least a skill position, as elitely as Georgia has with tight ends. Like, wide receiver recruiting is usually pretty spread out. Running back recruiting is usually pretty spread out. Georgia's done a good job, but they haven't raked in talent like they have with tight ends. Because,
when Lane Kiffin was at Alabama and he recruited all of those wide receivers to where he just put this elite unit together, they had a chance to do it, but even it fell apart, and they had to go get a transfer that's basically Jamison Williams.
Yeah, they came real close. LSU, you could probably say, did it with Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase, but that's still only 3 guys.
Yeah.
So,
it was Keon Butte had a chance, but he's on the Christian McCaffrey plan.
Yeah, he's just Christian McCaffrey tore his ACL reading the tweet about Baker Mayfield. I just you just get the top guy you get the top 2 guys every single year. Like your tight end room is freaking elite, man. Like, your entire tight end room could start for anybody in the conference. Like, your
Ohio
5th guy could start. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. They got NFL guy after NFL guy after NFL guy after NFL guy. Great college guys, but for some reason they don't pan out too well in the pros. Hopefully Justin Fields will change that mold. But CJ Stroud's a dude.
Yeah.
Ohio State. Let's look at some of the other. Now that we're gonna start to kind of head off the rails a little bit here. We're gonna look. I want to look at some of these other odds for these other conferences. Like the Roadrunners are favored to win the Conference USA. Never thought I'd see that day. But the Big 12 Conference is SEC loaded.
Yeah,
you got
shocking.
Oklahoma and Texas, 2 SEC teams favored to duke it out in that conference. I really like Baylor in that conference. Like, if they're plus 625. I don't know. There's a huge betting upside to that, but I really like them to repeat.
Well, playing Baylor and watching what they do, it reminded me very much of Nick Saban at Michigan State.
Yeah.
That's what Baylor looked like. Dave Aranda has these guys clicking. I'm telling you,
they play hard for him.
Yeah, that they got something cooking down there in Waco.
Yeah, they do. I don't like the TCU is. I think TCU is a little high at plus 1,200. I think they should be a little bit lower on that end. I like Kansas State where they are. I like Oklahoma State where they are plus 550. I think the Oklahoma State Baylor are your 2 dark horses again. They're your 2 teams that are sitting in the wings that if Oklahoma and Texas slip up. I don't like Texas being the second favorite. They just choke every single year. I just don't see it.
Very Notre Dame-ish.
Yeah, they're in a definite show me pattern here.
Mm-hmm.
I might just throw $5 on Kansas because they're at 25 plus 25,000. I just it's $5. Why not?
$5 to win $1,200 or something like that.
It'd be crazy. But yeah, that's the Big 12. I mean, it's pretty much, is what it is. I like Kansas State is my favorite dark horse in this league because they are so freaking physical, man. They're like the anti-Big 12 team.
Well, Baylor's so physical now. They're turning into the SEC in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's turning into defense and running the ball. It's weird. Now the SEC is now the spread conference.
I love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. Looking at the Big 10,
Nebraska 4th.
I don't like that at all.
Uh-huh.
I don't. They're gonna get their annual ass kicking at Iowa. I don't like Michigan State being so low. I would probably switch Iowa, Nebraska at the very least. These odds are pretty good. Otherwise, Ohio State's going to be loaded, but what are they going to have on defense? They're so soft.
Yeah,
like they have nothing on the offensive defensive lines.
They're turning into the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma team. Yeah, Charmin extra soft.
They're just so soft. They're like a 7-on-7 team.
Yeah,
you roll up in a 7-on-7, they ain't losing.
Yeah, USC was already soft. By the way, everybody's talking about Lincoln Riley's going to turn around. He's like, they were already soft. There is no hardness for him to walk into.
Oh no,
yeah,
no, they're gonna be super extra sharp. Yeah. I like Michigan. Michigan's plus 1,000.
It's probably a decent bet, but I'm not going to bet on. I'm not going to bet on snow and Columbus this year.
Well, snow, no snow. Michigan showed how soft Ohio State really is. Then they got their ass handed to them against Georgia in the Orange Bowl, but Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 pick, was just getting jelly-legged and ragdolled by Jamari Sawyer all game long.
Yeah, but he went to New York. Good grief. What's wrong with the kid from Alabama stayed home, but he got to go to New York.
I know, right? Will Anderson, best freaking defense. The best player in the country was Will Anderson.
Yeah.
That dude changed games, man. That dude was – and he's coming back. That's what's scary about it.
Yeah, the most excited person about Will Anderson coming back, and that's Dallas Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Because he gets to go on the other side and have seen he's gonna be the one that just wrecks people this year.
Yeah. How about the SEC? ACC. Clemson's favored to win again at minus 130. And they're just favored because nobody else is good enough to really take it.
I actually like if I had $100 to put down, I'd put $100 on NC State.
Yes, a lot of people are. I'm nervous about that. They're plus 700 though.
Yeah,
it's not a bad bet. UNC's plus 2,500. My dark horse. I really think Wake Forest is a good bet at plus 1,800. They have some upside in a very weak conference. Virginia has some decent upside at plus 2,500. To throw $10 on. It's not gonna. Don't bet your house on Virginia. So if you're listening, just don't do that. But FSU, what are they under Mike Norvell?
They're a quarterback away.
Yeah,
basically.
Mackenzie Milton.
Duke 500-1. That's twice as bad odds as Kansas. Kansas is 250-1.
Oh, that's bad.
How bad is Duke going to be this year?
Bad, man. Oof.
When Kansas doubles you up.
That's not good. Although Lance Leopold's doing a good job, but
yeah, I think it's funny. Like the Kansas State-Kansas game is going to turn into an old-fashioned slobber knocker.
Yeah, they're just going to freaking maul each other. It's going to a blowout in that game is going to be like 17-6.
Yeah.
It's gonna be 17-6. You'll be like, dude, Kansas State just freaking mauled them.
Yeah.
I really like my favorite part about Wake Forest is the fact they got Sam Hartman coming back.
Okay. I like the odds because I don't have trust in Clemson. Clemson's like negative 130.
I'm not putting money on that.
Yeah, I'm not even going to touch that because DJ Ukulele is still the quarterback at Clemson.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
and
he's not going to win that job. It's going to be. But
if it's Klubnik, he's a young guy.
I think Klubnik's going to win the job. There's no way Ukulele can win that job.
Yeah,
after what he put out last year.
Klubnik is a fantastic quarterback, but he's still going to be a true freshman.
That is true. That is true.
And Clemson opens with Georgia Tech, if I'm not mistaken. I almost said at the Georgia Dome, but at Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Which might as well be the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no way Ukulele's the quarterback there. There's just
By the way, Bryce Kuhn, who is the guy that comes on my show from time to time from Georgia Tech, we always joke back and forth that they let Georgia design their schedule, because if y'all have a chance to go look at Georgia Tech's schedule,
it's
just look at it.
Murderer's Row.
Yeah. Just look at it and laugh. It's like, who did this? It's like you're trying to get the coach fired.
It's bad. It is real bad.
Yeah. You got a road game at UCF, and somehow that is like the 9th hardest game on your schedule.
Oh, yeah, it's oh boy. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably even make Georgia fans feel a little bit sorry for them. Well, maybe not. But yeah, good grief. It'll be nice to enjoy that. And my Rebels go out to Bobby Dodd this year. By the way, on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast channel, there's a nice little history on there about why Georgia Tech is not in the SEC. I broke that down for about 30 minutes and talked about all that.
It's really, really good listen if you haven't. Yeah. At Georgia Tech, oh God. Yeah. Georgia Tech, under their 2021 fun stats, their first half scoring, they're getting outscored in the first half 245 to 143. Their red zone they're giving up red zone touchdowns at a 61% clip. And scoring at a 49% clip.
Yeah, this has got to be the last of Jeff Collins, right?
Yeah, and I have family members that are Georgia Tech fans. God only knows why. And they asked me what I thought of Jeff Collins, and of course, at first they took I told him he was a goofball, and they took my answer at first. They go, "Well, you're just a Georgia fan." I go, "Okay, look at him. He doesn't coach. He is too worried about holding a Waffle House cup at his press conferences. He's too busy trying to design the backdrop that they do the photo shoots with. He's too worried about getting their pregame pump on the sideline for ESPN so they can show it during the game. Like he's too consumed with the peripheral stuff. Like, yeah, some of that stuff is good for recruiting, but you can't let that consume yourself. You got to actually coach the team at some point, And he just doesn't do that. And a lifelong Georgia Tech alum, probably one of their best running backs in their history, was coaching for them. Tashard Choice decided that he was going to forego that. I mean, he probably got more money too, but he went to Texas. He left Georgia Tech for Texas. Like he was Mr. Georgia Tech. Like he was probably the one that bled blue and gold. Like he had yellow. Like if you stabbed him, yellow jackets would come flying out of his chest. Like that's how much Georgia Tech was in his system. And he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah, and it's crazy. Now I like the Georgia Tech uniforms. Them go into the blue and everything. I like their new look. Adidas has done a really good job. Which is not something you say very often.
I know, right? I like these white helmets that they have. They have a good color scheme. There's so many things they can do. I like that they finally went with the logo at midfield again and not at the 25s like they had it before, They just scream JV football though.
Yeah, and they took
JV.
Bobby Dodd to turf. They've been grass forever, and they took him to turf.
That don't really bother me.
And that bothers me because the way that Bobby Dodd is set up, it's already a tight quarters situation, almost like a bandbox type stadium, like San Jose State or somebody like that.
Yeah,
and then you add that turf down there, and it just gets so hot, and it takes away a little bit from the experience. Now, it might be good when Georgia rolls in the weekend after Thanksgiving, but when Ole Miss goes in there the second or third week of the season, it's going to be 140 degrees on that turf.
Yeah. But y'all are used to it. I mean, y'all practice on turf. Vaught Hemingway's turf for a long time. Are y'all back to grass?
We're back to grass. We've been back to grass since 2016.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Ole Miss is going to come in and just freaking beat the brakes off of them. I'll be an Ole Miss fan that weekend. I'm an Ole Miss fan just about every weekend. I like Ole Miss.
Yeah, if Jackson Dart reaches his potential, this team could be scary good.
So is Jackson like coming out of spring? Is Jackson Dart like clear the guy, or is it still kind of like
Luke Altmaier's the guy right now?
Oh,
and it's going to come down to fall camp, and there might be a 2-quarterback system at the beginning of the year because basically what's happened is picture Brett Favre and Drew Brees having a quarterback competition. And you have Jackson Dart who wants to throw the ball downfield. He thinks he can make every throw. He turns the ball over. He's kind of loose with the football. And then you got hyper efficient Luke Altmaier.
Yeah.
Who just check downs and does what he's supposed to do. Nothing really flashy, but he's not going to get you in trouble.
True. Okay. I like that. I like that. Well, before we get out of here, we talked about the top 10 stadiums in the SEC. So that prompted me to make a graphic. I wanted to redesign this one of Believe's like top 10 graphics that I saw, and it was part of my practice for Photoshop.
Okay.
And so I just used top 10 stadiums as my guide. And I'll put out the graphic so you can see the graphic, but I want to include our new people, Texas and Oklahoma, in this list. Okay. So here's my list so far. I'll go top down. I'll just go top 10. The bottom 4, screw them. They don't get any mention. Okay. Number 1, Death Valley.
Yeah, without a doubt. No argument here.
No, yeah. Okay. Number 2, I say Neyland. That place gets freaking loud.
Yeah, that game with the mustard and the golf ball and all that last year.
It's hostile.
Yeah, that shows what that stadium can be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Neyland can be a special place, but it also can be a graveyard. That place can have the most fantastic atmosphere in the world, but if Tennessee isn't doing well, that could just be like a cavernous, empty graveyard.
Yeah, but I'm grading them on. They have a high ceiling. Yeah. They have a high ceiling, low floor. They could probably go from number 2 to number 14 real quick.
Yeah. Well, number 13.
They're the most volatile stadium in this group for ranking purposes. Number 3 is going to surprise a few folks, but I like Jordan-Hare as number 3.
Jordan-Hare at night is let's just say a difficult place to play. It's hard to do.
It's ridiculous. It is freaking ridiculous. You ever been to Williams-Brice on a night game?
No, but in 2009, Ole Miss went over there third in the country and walked away with an L. And that place was nuts, and Sandstorm was going absolutely crazy. And
their fans are nuts, and their team is never good, but they always pack that place out. And early in the season, they schedule all their games for noon. Early in the season, and it's freaking hell's waiting room. It's hot, it's loud. I talked to Israel about this too, and he said that was his least favorite place.
Okay.
So Williams-Brice at number 4. I like Sanford Stadium at number 5. Okay. I think the additions that they've made and some of the stuff that they've done with the experience, I think it moves it into the top 5 on real, like lately they've been able to affect the games. Like they had the crowd was responsible for 8 false start penalties against Notre Dame.
Yeah. I remember that game.
Like they can really, really affect a ball game there. And it can really turn into a hostile place real quick. But
the thing about Samford is it's a high ceiling. It's also a high floor. It can't drop down below that. There's a pretty consistent level there.
Yeah, I think the lowest it can get is probably 7 in these rankings. Like it's not going to fluctuate very much because it's always going to be packed. It's always going to be pretty crazy. And the way they design it now, it's more vertical, so the sound stays in there a lot better than it used to. They've closed in the bridge a little bit now, and the recruiting experience is outstanding. Number 6 is Kyle Field. I mean, when you have 175,000 people in your stadium crammed in, it's going to get loud. It's going to be kind of hostile, but it can be pretty docile.
It's going to be loud. They're going to be doing their dance routines. The
yell leaders.
Yeah. And
oh God. Yeah.
Like I said, they had like 114,000 in 2014 against Ole Miss, got their butt beat. And I mean, it didn't really affect the game at all.
Right.
But I mean, I guess you can see it, but I haven't seen it rowdy. I want to see a Texas A&M Texas game. I want to see Kyle Field in that game, and that'll probably let us know what it could be like.
Yeah, it's been close, but not quite to the potential that it could be, because I don't think Texas A&M has performed as well. Number 7 is the Swamp.
That's about right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's kind of similar to Georgia. You could see it at its best being around 4 or 5. You could see it at its worst about 7 or 8.
Yeah, as a high ceiling, high floor. Number 8, Bryant Denny.
Bryant Denny to me, it's a high ceiling, high floor again, but it's mainly just because Alabama's so good. I've been over there to see a game, and it wasn't that special of an atmosphere. I mean, they parade there.
It could be better.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason Bryant Denny shouldn't be number 2.
They parade 17 national championships, and you look at the date, and one of the years Alabama was like 4 and 5, and it was like, what? And they count it, but
yeah,
there's so many flags on the field. It looks impressive, but don't research it too much.
The next 2 teams were on the original list without Oklahoma and Texas, which is Mississippi State at 9, Arkansas at 10. But I think those two get bumped. I think whatever Oklahoma Stadium's called, Memorial Stadium, I guess, goes in at 9. DKR goes in at 10. DKR is one of those like Kyle Field. It's in there because it's over 100,000. It does get loud there. They do have a good atmosphere. Great tailgating, great fan base, hungry.
The one thing that you see from Texas fan, they've kind of fixed it over the years where they almost ruined it.
Yeah.
So, pay attention to that this season. The atmosphere isn't what it was because now there's like a snazzy seating area, like a club area in the end zone where you can sit that's shaped like a longhorn. And, it's a little bit weird. But that's the reason they're down at 10 as opposed to being up in the middle of the conference. Yeah.
And the best road home stadium in the conference goes to Vanderbilt.
Yes. I think Georgia is basically sold it out. Tennessee is checkerboarded out Vanderbilt Stadium, which is the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard of.
That is the most pitiful thing. That's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, you got to be shitting me.
Yeah, it's so bad.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. But, well, Steve, I told the audience where they could find you. But before we wrap up, where can we find you?
You can catch me at the Locked On Ole Miss podcast on YouTube. Please subscribe if you have. Tell a friend, get them to subscribe. You can also catch me on the Y'all's Conference Network page with Corey. Please subscribe to that page. When we do live streams, you can chat. We can do like that, and we're trying to grow all these different things. But we want to make following your team fun again. And that is the whole goal behind all of this, is to make it fun. We're not so much into news. We're into what you're talking about, what interests you. And we will commentate on that, and we'll give perspectives and commentary and try to do really cool things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that with spades on SEC After Dark. Our Off the Rails segments truly get off the rails, and it's hilarious. Beast of the East and Best of the West are two shows that kind of encompass that. Beast of the East is just kind of like a Eastern spin on SEC After Dark. Israel and I joined forces with Vinny Hardy from Believe in Kentucky, and we do the Beast of the East, and we just go, man. We just rock and roll. And Vinny's been great, great addition to that show. The three of us, we had trouble all three getting together for a stretch, but I think when we finally all get together consistently, that show's going to jump off the page. And then, of course, this one, you subscribe. Our stuff is scrolling down there below at Believe in Dawgs. I'm growing a TikTok presence.
Ooh.
Yeah. No dances yet. Not there yet. If we get to 1,000 subscribers, I'll do a dance. How about that? I'll do one of those Walker Hayes dances, like the fancy dance. I'll do that one. Might be that might be the only one I can do, or I'll hit the gritty. Who knows? I'll let you choose.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
I'll let y'all choose. Hit 1,000, I'll do one. So yeah, when we hit 1,000, not if, when we hit 1,000, I'll do one. So subscribe, comment, find us wherever you can get your podcast. Also find us on YouTube. Our show and y'all's Conference Network show is linked to our YouTube page at Believe in Dawgs, so you can actually get that there as well. So it doesn't matter, but subscribe to both. Tell a friend. If you're one of those that's really into SEC content, which during the season you'll probably, hopefully you'll immerse yourself in SEC content, and you're not just wrapped up into one team, then we're the place to go. But we are the Believe in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Believe Network, brought to you, also coming at you from Brinks.tv, presented by Betonline.ag. Thank you, Steve, for joining me. And until then, we will see you back here next week. Have a great weekend. Go Dogs.
This is the Believe in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Believe Podcast Network.